So, our precious dentition, as we age, I think I've really realized that, as I've always heard that people that are middle-aged say that the dentition is just becomes so compromised that your eating becomes difficult to masticate the food properly. And basically I find that there is then a question arises of when to brush one's teeth. Is it straight after the meal or after 2 hours after the meal, because of the Stefan curve, the increase in potential hydrogen in the saliva, because of the fermentable carbohydrates. And so there's two sources of acidity in the oral cavity, which is that you're eating something acidic, or that the fermentable carbohydrates are fermented by the microbiota and secrete acids, right? And both of that demineralizes the enamel. And so the question arises, like, which is more important? Do you remove the source? Do you remove these fermentable carbohydrates so that they don't become metabolized into acids to degrade the enamel through demineralization of the calcium phosphate matrix? Or do you wait until the potentially acidic food that you were eating has that acidity has been diluted enough? And for me, I just, from my research, and it's controversial, but it's like, I would definitely say that the best way to do it is to immediately after eating remove the very source, either if it's directly acidic or if it's indirectly acidic through having fermentable carbohydrates. Either way, I would think if it was anything else and you knew that, like for example, salt on steel and with moisture in the air, you just remove it as quickly as possible, because you want to basically remove the source of the direct acidity through fruits, especially citrus fruits or things like that. The fermentable carbohydrates that adhere to the enamel, both of them, it seems very logical to me to just remove them straight away instead of waiting, because there's this notion that one should wait a couple of hours until the acidity has subsided, which actually normally would actually take 4 hours, because one has to wait for the fermentable carbohydrates to be metabolized. Once they're metabolized, then you'd have to wait for the actual calcium phosphate matrix to remineralize, and then you could brush your teeth. But I just think, well, just brush them straight after. Remove the very source, whether it's the direct acidity through citrus fruits, for example, or the fermentable carbohydrates being metabolized by the microbiota. Either one, you just remove them straight away. So I brush my teeth immediately after eating. I also floss every second day, because I find that flossing every day is a bit too somehow too intense for the interdental gum line. For some reason, or maybe it's just the way that the flosser works, that it's just too harsh to be used, I find, every day. And so I floss, and I use a Reach flosser, which is like a toothbrush, but it has like a bow at the end, so that one doesn't have to wrap it around their fingers and do it in that difficult way. One can just put it in, and it's a tool. It's like you could use a stone to hammer in a nail, but using a hammer would be much more efficient, and that's what this is. This is like a tool for using the flosser, and I think that this Reach flossing device is much more efficient at, and so I brush and I floss straight after eating, but not if the food isn't cariogenic, because for my morning breakfast, the food I have is not cariogenic, not on account of it having a lack of carbohydrates, which predominantly are the source of the metabolite, or the acid metabolite, but I think that if something doesn't adhere to your tooth, like if it's liquid, or nuts which don't stick to your food, to your teeth, then the cariogenicity of the food is basically nil, because it just doesn't reside in the area long enough. And so I find that a simple rinse after a mouth rinse, just with water or anything, after eating a food that is liquid or non-cariogenic, like that doesn't have any adhesion to the teeth, but like which would be, so for example, something sticky like a banana would be sort of on the border of being cariogenic, just on the fact that it will adhere to the tooth, but it's so easy to wash off if you eat something afterwards. So it's just a matter of choosing sort of to eat all of the non-cariogenic foods all in one food meal, and then eating the more cariogenic foods prior to brushing one's teeth for the day, and timing it somehow like that so that one ends up with the least amount of demineralization of the enamel.